5.5, standard form. Oh my gosh, all these different forms. This is so difficult. I understand that they can be a lot to remember, but if you ever have a question, you're supposed to always ask. So we're dealing with another type of form to use with linear equations. So standard form is a linear equation written like this. So it would be a constant times x plus a constant times b is equal to a number. So a, b, and c are all real numbers. So an example would be if I had, let's say, 5x minus 3y is equal to 10. In this case, my a is equal to 5, b would be equal to negative 3, and c would be equal to 10. So that's written as standard form. What do I use standard form for? When it's in standard form, this is where I would find my x and y intercept. So what does x and y intercept mean? So the x-intercept is when if I had an ordered pair and my y equation is equal to 0, because I'm not moving up or down, and that's where it crosses the y-axis. And my y-intercept, this is where if I had an ordered pair, my x is equal to 0, because I'm not moving left or right. So I'm actually getting a number for the x, for my x-intercept, and I'm getting a number for my y-intercept. So I use my equation above, and would always first write out your 2 points you were looking for. So here I'm looking for my x, here I'm looking for my y. So my first x-intercept, it's telling me, I already wrote out that y is equal to 0. So I have 3x plus 4 times 0 is equal to 24. The 0 comes from x-intercept, y is always equal to 0. So then if I simplify this, I get 3x is equal to 24, and then I divide both sides by 3, and I get x is equal to 8. So my final answer would be 8, 0. So that's my x-intercept. So it crosses the x-axis at 0, or at 8. So my y-intercept, I do the same process, still using my equation, except this time I have 3 times 0, because x is 0, plus 4, y is equal to 24. And if I simplify, I get 4y is equal to 24, divide by 4 on both sides, and I get x is equal to 6. So my final answer here would be 0, 6. And again, I would always first write out this step right here, because that will help you to know if you should plug in 0 for x or y. So I have to actually graph this. When you're in standard form, the first thing you want to do is find your x and y intercept. So I'm going to have 0, and I have to figure out what that number is. I'm also going to have a number and then 0. So for my first equation, I'm plugging 0 in for x, minus 2y is equal to negative 2, divided by negative 2 on both sides because 0 would cancel out. Y is going to be equal to 1. So this is 1 point. Then I also solve the equation for when y is equal to 0. So I'm going to have x minus 2 times 0 is equal to negative 2. This cancels out, so x is just equal to negative 2, so I plug that in. So now I have my 2 points. Once you have your 2 points, then you actually graph them. So 0, and then go over to a positive 1, because that's my y-intercept. And I have negative 2, 0, that's my x-intercept. And I draw my line. And that is how you graph using standard form. Here I'm asking for what is the graph. So when I look at this, if there's only one variable, like here's only one x, one y, x and y, then it's either going to be a straight line left and right, or it's going to be a straight line up and down. And the way that you can tell is if I go to first, x is equal to negative 3. I'm going to my origin, and then I'm going to move backwards 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 point. Your graph should go in the direction as your tick mark. So my tick mark when I'm drawing my x's goes up and down. So this line would go up and down. So if I'm going to graph y's at 3, I go up to 3. Y is my y-axis up and down, so I move up 3. And this tick mark moves the left and right, so it's going to be a line left and right. Right now you should pause the video and see if you get the correct graphs for the next two problems. So your x is equal to 4 graph should be up and down and crosses through the x-axis at x is 4. And your y is equal to -6. That should go down 6, and then it should move left and right, crossing through the y-axis at -6. Here I'm given an equation written as y equals mx plus b, but I want to write it in standard form using integers. So I'm going to actually rewrite this problem. This is going to be -3/7 x plus 5. The first thing you want to do is get rid of fractions. So in order to get rid of my fractions, I want to multiply the whole equation by the denominator. So when I'm looking at this picture, denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction. So when I multiply this whole equation, it's both left and right. I'm going to multiply the whole thing by 7. So I have to distribute into each term on the inside. So this becomes 7y is equal to, once you multiply this by the denominator, it's just going to be the number on top of your fraction. So that will become -3x. And then 7 times 5 will be plus 35. And then your second step is you want to move the x or y to the same side of the equation. So same side, and you have to make sure to write the x first. So I want to move this x over, so plus 3x plus 3x. And when you write it in standard form, it should be your number times the x plus your number times the y is equal to your number all by itself. And now this would be my final answer written in standard form. A is going to be equal to 3, B is going to equal to 7, and C would be equal to 35. That is all for standard form. Make sure you fill out the Google form and submit your answers. Have a wonderful day.